This show is recorded live on Wednesday, April 9th at 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Tune in, join the live chat, and call in during the show by going to adamversustheman.com/live. Freedom is simply one conclusion of a rational analysis of the human condition, but it has many implications. It is not simply a political conclusion, that without the force and coercion of government, we will all be better off. It is also a moral code and a higher calling. The opposite of freedom is slavery, complete control by others. Under modern governments, we live in a state of semi-slavery. People give up or have stolen from them large chunks of their productivity, income tax and other taxes, to support governments. But far more is being taken. We can all be placed on a scale from 0 to autonomous for how we choose to live. Those string pullers at the top of the current system would tell you that except for the few elites, humans are incapable of true autonomy. Not independence, but spiritual, emotional, psychological autonomy. They would tell you that most people are born followers, sheep, mindless pack animals. And from looking around us today, they might be right. But you don't have to be one of the elites to decide that you are going to be the alpha of your own life. Your circumstances are irrelevant to the attitude by which you choose to live your life. Most of us today live relatively sad, pathetic lives compared to our potential that are planned out for us, in which the relevance of our intent and preferences is insignificant compared to the people who tell us what to eat, what to wear, what to think, how to live, and who to work for. From looking around us, you might think that the human being is nothing more than a mindless pack animal. Sure, alphas emerge to exploit the rest of us, but by and large, the human animal is one that submits to fear and intimidation and cowers in the face of tyranny. While it is tempting to be pessimistic, and today it is all too easy to look around and see the world as it is and lose hope, but it is not our destiny to live like cattle. The gift of the human consciousness is too much to be squandered. We all have the capacity to be the alphas of our own lives. To say that you should be free, as we libertarians would make the case, is to say that you deserve better. You are a free, beautiful, independent human being, and you should never let anyone tell you otherwise. To wake up to the message of freedom, to see the light of logic, to understand what it means to be free, is not just a call for a handful of political positions. It is not just a set of beliefs or ideas or a mere box to be checked. It is a calling to be a better person. As long as we remain as pack animals, we will be restrained by those who would exploit us. As long as we willingly accept the subversion of our own potential, we will remain in such a childlike state of immaturity, uncertainty, and subservience. This is about how you think, how you act, how you treat other people, what you eat, what you buy, who you associate with, and how you appreciate the unique gift that is your own will. The message of freedom demands better people. If you want to be free, step up. And today is Wednesday, April 9th, 2014. You're listening to the Adam vs. the Man podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, especially those of you who are listening at adamversustheman.com/live. We are still getting settled here in Los Angeles. This is our third show back with AVTM 4.0, getting smoother and smoother every day. Not me, the show. If you want to get involved, we are recruiting interns right now who'd like to help develop content for the show or want to help produce or make our videos better quality or get out with me in the field and do some field videos. I'm sorry we haven't gotten any out this week. We're actually working on something really amazing. I'm sure there's some members of the Adam vs. the Man audience who have seen the photographs from the anarchist wedding. They actually, I was really surprised that just the pictures of Jeffrey and Kayla dressed up in their Mad Max themed outfits in the middle of the desert, like by themselves, because you look at the picture and you go, okay, that's cool, it's nice, it's dramatic, it's visual, it could be a movie scene, right? And then you go, wait. Hold on a second. Those people are getting married in that picture? Yeah. I'm gonna pull this up here on the screen while I'm rambling. I should have had this prepared. Let's see. We're gonna pull up Jeffrey Phillips' Facebook page. Jeffrey, you're tagged in some of these, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's your cover photo. Perfect. Actually, the cover photo is Jeffrey and Kayla back to back, firing their firearms as the consummation act for their wedding when they married themselves. I was lucky enough to officiate. We're working on that video. I'm really excited about it. Don't worry, it's coming. More field videos are coming as we get smoother with the studio production process. Adam vs. the Man is now officially part of Disney Incorporated. Okay, sort of. Yes, Maker Studios, our YouTube partner network, was bought by Disney, so little weird corporate connection there, but we are accountable first and foremost to the audience, because people who support this message know that we could not survive on YouTube revenue alone. And for everybody who's donated Bitcoin and Litecoin, who's helped us get back from, when I got out of jail and was restarting from scratch, really appreciate it. If you want to support the show, please go to adamversustheman.com/invest and email us if you want to help sponsor the show. We have advertising for sale. Adam@adamversustheman.com. That's right. Same place you send your love mail. So, as you know by now, there was a brutal stabbing in where 20 students were injured at a high school in Murraysville, Pennsylvania, and typical kind of tragedy where you have a student who snaps, and in this case, took some knives to school and just started stabbing people. We're very lucky that no one was killed. And I think there's a very important lesson to be had from every incident like this. And we talked about the shooting at Fort Hood that happened last week. But really, what we have to do is keep dangerous people from getting their hands on a knife so easily. I mean, we have to do more. I really believe in keeping guns out of our inner cities. I mean, especially our inner cities. And our leaders must say so in the face of knife manufacturers. Why wouldn't you want to make it more difficult for a dangerous criminal to get their hands on a knife? I mean, really, like, do you want criminals? Do you want dangerous criminals to be so easily armed? A majority support laws requiring background checks before all knife purchases. Knife violence, it has terrible consequence for our society, and if we can only do one thing to stop it, we should all try to do that. And we really should vigorously pursue a ban on knives. Obviously, it's the only rational conclusion after an incident like this. I mean, they're not using AK-47s to attack each other. They're using cheap kitchen knives. Okay. The last few sentences there were actually all Barack Obama quotes, simply with the word gun replaced with knife. And that's the lesson to be taken from this. If you actually get past the fear-mongering behind gun control and examine the logic of it, or lack thereof, you'll see that you can apply the rational thinking to any other problem. And this is a legitimate problem. People snap and want to hurt each other. Yeah. Huge legitimate problem. Okay, maybe not huge, but it's certainly not insignificant. But if you are coming to a conclusion based on logical analysis, rational conclusions, A follows B, so on and so forth, you should be able to take that logic and apply it to any parallel circumstance. And when you do that, as we just simply did, and you see that if you simply replace the word gun with knife in all of these quotes from Obama, the logic really doesn't hold up at all. From Reuters by Mark Frank, Cuba says U.S. created other Cuban Twitter projects. That's right. And this is a big issue beyond just what's happening in Cuba and the American government's subversion of other governments and other people around the world. It's really so much more connected to current events, because right now the issue with Crimea and the Ukraine is still relevant, is still in the news, and right now Russia Today, the network that I used to do a show for in Washington D.C., is gone through some shakeups. You had Liz Wall quitting on the air. You had Abby Martin's statement that went viral when she said, it doesn't matter if it's Russia. I'm not going to I'm not going to compromise my editorial independence. I'm going to condemn any interference with a nation's sovereignty. And if she only could boil that down to the principles behind that statement and could just take it a one step farther, she'd also be a libertarian. But, nobody's perfect. So what this points to, though, is really how much the pot is calling the kettle black here when the American government, or, pro-America, and by that they generally mean pro-American government, blowhards, when they go and criticize RT at this point, saying, hey, it's Russian propaganda, and it is, then you have to put it in context and show, what is the United States doing? And it's just such perfect timing that this comes out right now. The U.S. government has admitted it created a social media network called Zunzuneo, which takes its name from Cuban slang for the tweet of a hummingbird. It was revealed in a report by the Associated Press, which said Zunzuneo, I hope that's how you say it. It's a really cool name, isn't it? Zunzuneo. Zunzuneo. I think I'm going to name my kids that. All of them. Yeah. Zunzuneo 1, Zunzuneo 2, exactly. A democracy promotion program that was neither secret nor covert under the U.S. government's definitions of those terms. Now you kind of understand why defining marriage is so important. Oh, it's all about the words. If we say that it's not secret or covert by our definitions, then it's not secret or covert. But for those of you that don't know the background on the story, the Zunzuneo thing was just one part of a lot of other things that they were doing through USAID. And they were going through shadow or sort of front corporations, and had different people doing things anonymously. This quote is from the Union of Young Communists newspaper, Juventud Rebelde. The surprising denunciations made recently in an investigation by the Associated Press about the existence for years of a secret project of the U.S. Agency for International Development to create a supposed Cuban Twitter are scarcely the tip of the iceberg of a gigantic subversive campaign against Cuba. Well, it's really against regimes in throughout the world. Everything that the U.S. government is doing to subvert the conversation is having an effect. Is everything okay with this stream?
Twitter is all part of your there's some feedback.
There's some feedback.
The Skype is off or something like that.
It's good.
What's going on?
You had audio coming through.
Oh, okay.
You on air?
Yeah, of course we're on air. Yeah, really, we're live. Okay. U.S. officials said the program referred to by Juventud Rebelde had been publicly revealed since their inception and were merely an attempt to promote the free flow of information in a country where the state controls all the media. And we wouldn't know anything about government controlling the media here in the United States, now would we? Now, having just moved to Los Angeles, there are, I'm still getting a sense of the relationship with LAPD here. And I understand that LAPD has a unique record, big city police department, lots of corruption, lots of problems, lots of enforcement of bullshit laws. But this story really has some broader implications. From the Los Angeles Times, LAPD officers tampered with in-car recording equipment, records show. An inspection by LAPD investigators found about half of the estimated 80 cars in one South LA patrol division were missing antennas. Now, we've seen in other jurisdictions recently where they've added video devices to officers' uniforms, like they are required, along with their gun and their badge, to wear a video recording device. And when they do that, incidents and complaints just plummet. It's insane, like exactly what you'd expect. When people are able to get away with crimes without accountability, they're going to commit more crimes. Doesn't matter if they're individual citizens who aren't criminals, or by that I mean aren't professional criminals like police, or if they're police where they're professional criminals who go and enforce unjust laws. When you provide a level of accountability, this is we're going to videotape everything you do. Yeah, no crap. Yeah, incidents go down, complaints go down, And of course, this saves money for police departments because it means they have less lawsuits against them and payouts that they have to give for incidents of violence by police. In Los Angeles, what they have is voice recording equipment in dozens of patrol cars that monitor the police while they're on duty. An inspection by LAPD investigators found about half of the estimated 80 cars in one South LA patrol division were missing antennas, which help capture what officers say in the field. The antennas in at least 10 more cars in nearby divisions had also been removed. And they didn't notice? Really? Who's actually supposed to be monitoring these? Oh, no. Why did they put them in the first place? Now, if the police department actually cared about providing legitimate services, they wouldn't be working for government. They wouldn't be doing the bidding of politicians. So when the department does this, and when we've seen like the video cameras installed for officers, and most, from what I know, most cruisers, in a lot of departments have video cameras, dash cams, just like the one that I have in my car. I would hope better, but these are put in there not to provide accountability. That's kind of like the whole thing is an exercise in creating a greater sense of credibility for the police among the people that they're subjecting to the will of politicians. So LAPD Chief Charlie Beck and other top officials learned of the problem last summer, but chose not to investigate which officers were responsible. Jeez. You see, like, if you actually believe that the police are there to serve and protect, and they really want to do that, well then, yeah, you go, oh my God, this is an outrage. This is a failure of the system. This is a bad person. We have to replace them. We have to change the policy. We have to do something about this. But if you understand what it is, if you understand the racket, then, it all makes a lot more sense. And you don't get angry. You just realize, well, at least they're doing something to provide some token of pretend accountability. LAPD Chief Charlie Beck instead issued warnings against continued meddling and put checks in place to account for antennas at the start and end of each patrol shift. Members of the police commission, which oversees the department, were not briefed about the problem until months later. In interviews with The Times, some commissioners said they were alarmed by the officers' attempts to conceal what occurred in the field, as well as the failure of department officials to come forward when the problem first came to light. On an issue like this, we need to be brought in right away, Commission President Steve Soboroff said. This equipment is for the protection of the public and of the officers. To have people who don't like the rules to take it upon themselves to do something like this is very troubling. And you know that this is pandering, that if there was any legitimate intent behind any of this, we wouldn't be here right now. And I just love the picture of this guy, LAPD Chief Charlie Beck. Do you ever see in any private institutions, you ever see a CEO dressed up like Colonel Gaddafi? Big sash across his chest, covered in medals and ribbons, and he's got like shit on his shoulders and stars on his collar and a big fancy hat. You ever see fast food restaurants are the closest we get to that, right? I love the In-N-Out uniforms, by the way. But really, yeah, thank you. So, but you don't see that. Why? Why do people do that? Like, why is that you have the military? Oh, well, we're here to protect you, and they have to give this whole pomp and circumstance, and and just this false bravado, and generate this absurd false sense of credibility. Why? Because they're totally full of crap. Because it's a racket. And it's the same thing with the police. You see here LAPD chief, and he's like dressed up, and it's like, oh, I'm important. You can't question me because I've got stars on my collar and a serious look on my face, and I'm telling you that we're here to serve and protect the shit out of you. Now, hey guys, I'm hearing some audio in the studio. Is there somebody like playing some music in the other room or something?
The YouTube page, the Facebook page you pulled up is running a video.
Oh, the Facebook page.
Yeah.
No, it's looking at a. Oh, it's this. Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's done now. So that was going through. Okay. Awesome. Cool. We got that figured out. My bad. That was when I pulled up that picture. Yeah. No. It stopped.
Yeah.
we played a video that I had pulled up. It was actually Mark Dice's on his new channel. YouTube just gave government agents super flagging abilities. In case you were listening to that while I was talking at the same time. All right. Before we get Pete Santilli on, we have a really exciting show today, by the way, for guests. We have Pete Santilli all the way from the Bundy Ranch. That's the Bundy Ranch, not the Bunny Ranch in Nevada, where they are being surrounded by armed agents. We're going to be going to him in about 10 minutes here. So I want to cover a story. I hope we'll get through all this before we get Pete Santilli on here. But I think most people at this point are aware of the existence of the Israel lobby. They understand that the Israeli government and people in Israel have some sway over the American government. You know, we know that politicians can be bought, not a surprise. But even myself, I was really shocked by some of this recent news, and you know, I did a little digging, and I really feel silly for having any sense of surprise at the extent of this. But I saw this story on antiwar.com. Israel buys $2 billion in warplanes, assumes U.S. will pay for it. Ever confident in their ability to get the U.S. to foot the bill for unwise purchases, Israel has announced the acquisition of $2 billion worth of the troubled V-22 Osprey planes on a deferred payment plan. The reason for the deferred payment plan in this case is because Israel has no intention of paying for these planes, and is just putting them in the arms dealer's equivalent of layaway until they can con the U.S. into paying for it. The planes won't be coming out of the current promises of U.S. aid, but rather will be covered by military aid the U.S. hasn't promised yet, which will be appropriated after 2018. Do you understand the implication of this? It's the same as any government spending that creates debt, which is, you know, most of it right now. It's intergenerational child abuse. It is saying we are going to steal from our children to pay for this. For all you Israel supporters out there, you know, really, and I don't mean Israel, the country or the people, I mean the government. For all of you that can't tell the difference and want the American government to support the Israeli government by stealing from the U.S. taxpayer and doing all these horrific things that create enemies faster than we can kill them in order to stoke all of the discontent in the world that is going to, you know, create more terrorism. But the effects are so pervasive. And I'd like to share a couple of quotes that Ben Adut shared with me. John J. Mersheimer and Stephen M. Walt wrote a paper called The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy. Since the October War in 1973, Washington has provided Israel with a level of support dwarfing the amounts provided to any other state. It has been the largest annual recipient of direct U.S. economic and military assistance since 1976 and the largest total recipient since World War II. Total direct U.S. aid to Israel amounts to well over $140 billion in 2003 dollars. Israel receives about $3 billion in direct foreign assistance each year, which is roughly 1/5 of America's entire foreign aid budget. In per capita terms, the United States gives each Israeli a direct subsidy worth about $500 per year. Where does that money come from? You, the taxpayer, or from the future taxpayers. This largesse is especially striking when one realizes that Israel is now a wealthy industrial state with a per capita income roughly equivalent to South Korea or Spain. So, about the Ospreys, going back to this current story, former Israeli ambassador Danny Ayalon says it is reasonable for Israel to assume that the United States will eventually cough up a couple $2 billion for the Ospreys, citing overwhelming support in the U.S. Congress for all things Israel. And now I'd like to share a quote from Jeff Halper to kind of explain that process, because this really is, it's not just lobbying, it's super lobbying. When AIPAC when AIPAC sells Israel to Congress, it doesn't go to congressmen and ask them to support Israel because it's Judeo-Christian or because it's only democracy in the Middle East, which it also does. Now, when it does that, it's when they go to a politician, a member of Congress, and say, "Hey, we're Judeo-Christian. Your constituents love this." You know, what they're doing is giving them the talking points. And this is where they come from, in case you were wondering. But here's the actual leverage that they use to convince them to vote the way that they do and then lie to their constituents or, propagandize them, spin, whatever you want to call it, to get them to re-elect them or support this policy. It sells it on this basis. You are a member of Congress and it is your responsibility to support Israel because this is how many industries in your state have business links to Israel. This is how many military research people are sitting in universities in your district. This is how many jobs in your district are dependent on the military and the defense industry. And they translate it down to the extent to which your district is dependent on Israel. Therefore, if you are voting against Israel, you are voting against the goose that lays the golden egg. In most of the districts in the United States, members of Congress have a great dependence on the military. More than half of industrial employment in California is in one way or another connected to defense. Israel is right there, right in the middle of it all, and that is part of its strength. Israel is very important because on the one hand, it is a very sophisticated high-tech arms developer and dealer, but on the other hand, there are no ethical or moral constraints. There is no Congress. There are no human rights concerns. There are no laws against taking bribes. The Israeli government can do anything it wants to. Like being one of the very few countries to successfully attack a United States military ship, as in the USS Liberty, which they tried to sink in 1967. So you have very sophisticated rogue state, not a Libyan rogue state, and this is what really sums it up, but a high-tech military expert rogue state. Now that is tremendously useful both for Europe and for the United States. For example, there are American congressional constraints on selling arms to China because of China's human rights problems. So what Israel does is it tinkers with American arms just enough that they can be considered Israeli arms, and in that way, bypass Congress. Holy crap. So now we go to Tom Stauffer. The costs to American taxpayers of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, can you guess? It doesn't start with a B. $3 trillion. Conflicts in the Middle East have been very costly to the U.S. as well as to the rest of the world. An estimate of the total cost to the U.S. alone of instability and conflict in the region, which emanates from the core Israeli-Palestinian conflict, amounts to close to $3 trillion. Almost 4 times greater than the cost of the Vietnam War when reckoned in the same dollars based on inflation. Even this figure underestimates the costs because certain classes of expenditure remain unquantified. In particular, no reliable figure is available for the costs of Project Independence, Washington's lavishly promoted effort to reduce U.S. dependence on oil from the Middle East. That effort, which was subverted early on by diverse local special interests, was designed primarily to insulate Israel from any new Arab oil weapon and may easily have cost $1 trillion. Even though the outlays were rationalized in the interest of national security, which is the rationalization for all big, wasteful government spending, they contributed little or nothing to reducing U.S. strategic dependence on imported oil from the Middle East. By the way, the Ospreys that we were talking about, $2 billion worth of aircraft. These are the tilt rotor helicopter / planes that have killed dozens of Marines in just crashing in tests by mechanical failures. So, what do they do with them? Well, they sell them to Israel so they can sell them to China. Well, who cares? It doesn't matter as long as we can sell them and rip people off. And there's some semblance of a credibility. Oh, and let's kill some people and blow some shit up every now and then so people feel scared enough to support these policies. Similarly, U.S. Aid to Israel, and thus the regional total, is also underestimated since much of it is outside the foreign aid appropriation process or implicit in other programs. Support for Israel comes to $1.8 trillion, including special trade advantages, preferential contracts, or aid buried in other accounts. In addition to the financial outlay, U.S. aid to Israel costs some 275,000 American jobs every year. That's right. When money that you might spend here in the United States is taken by your government and given to a foreign government, it means that it's creating jobs somewhere else. It means that somewhere else you are hiring someone, and in this case, it's generally to oppress Palestinians. But it gets even better. It gets deeper and deeper and deeper. This is from Gabriel Schiavone, The Electronic Intifada, How Israel's War Industry Profits from Violent U.S. Immigration Reform. And by the way, a border is simply a line drawn on a map to restrict people's freedom of movement. Take the recent news that Israeli arms manufacturing giant Elbit Systems won a U.S. Department of Homeland Security contract to provide surveillance technology along the southern divide with Mexico. A Bloomberg trade analyst estimated that Elbit's $145 million award may eventually reach $1 billion if legislation to rewrite U.S. immigration laws passes Congress and helps fund the project's expansion in the Southwest. Promoted as border security on steroids by the bill's co-author, Republican Senator from Tennessee Bob Corker, the measure set aside $46 billion for security triggers that must be in place in areas including Arizona before a pathway to citizenship can be opened for an estimated 11 million people living undocumented in the U.S. today. The U.S. has spent $100 billion on immigration enforcement in the decade since 9/11. And in that time, Israel became the world's sixth largest defense exporter and a leading supplier and consumer in the budding border security industrial complex. That's right. You give up your freedom to an institution based on violating your rights. This is the natural consequence, and one more reason why I'm just another Jew against Zionism. We go now to, all right, he's already calling us. Excellent. We've got, oh, wait a second. We got to get his video on. All right. One of the major news stories making the rounds today comes from the Bundy, not the Bunny, the Bundy Ranch in Nevada, where Cliven Bundy is in an intense showdown with federal agents who are now circling his property with snipers in helicopters. This all comes from a dispute over land use, where this rancher and his family have actually been grazing on this land, or their cattle have been grazing on this land for generations. And now, because the BLM has changed their policies, he's decided to take a stand, and this is what the crackdown looks like. We go now to Pete Santilli from the Bundy Ranch. Pete, thank you so much for joining us.
Dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us on. First of all, you know, I've had these people, they've actually been waiting to say hello to everybody out there, your entire listening audience. They have a couple of things to say, right? Just check them out. The beautiful people here at the Bundy Ranch protesting say, what to the BLM?
Amazing,
right. BLM,
amazing.
BLM, go away. And thank you guys so much. Big round of applause for all of the fans of the Adam Kokesh show, everyone. All right, fantastic. All right, so Adam, here we are. We're live. It's actually a 600,000 acre ranch. Okay. Now I'm going to give you the freshest, most up-to-date report on what I found as soon as I got on the ground here. Okay.
Please.
At first I thought it was just the Bundy family who have had their stand against the federal government. They've been working since 1877, producers in the cattle industry, and the BLM has literally just sent SWAT teams out here, helicopters. They've hired ranchers to steal their cattle. They've got them corralled, and they're sending them out to auction. And they're not allowing their cattle to graze on this 600,000 BLM managed area. Now, guess what I found out when I got here? And this is not over sensationalizing, it's the truth. I've posted the placards on Facebook and on Twitter. This is virtually an undeclared state of martial law. Okay, let me give you an example of how. There are thousands of residents here in this local community. The residents are only allowed to drive down paved roads, and we're out in the middle of a 600,000 acre desert, of course, right?
Right.
And you know they have toys, and they live out here to go play with their toys. If they were to step foot, here they come, Rangers coming down the road, dude. Okay.
Can you pan around with your camera there, Pete?
Yeah, actually, there's a whole convoy of them. I think I can. Let me see if.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live by Skype with Pete Santilli at the Bundy Ranch. He's just turned his camera, and we are looking at a road. It's a little hard to make out from this image, but what we're looking at is a row of cars that are parked where this support demonstration is happening, telling the BLM to go away. And we have Rangers on approach now. Is that right, Pete?
Yeah, it's disgusting, and I'll get to the disgust that I feel when I see all the equipment. I mean, these guys are fully armed. They've got sidearms. They've got ARs. They literally have helicopters with gunners hanging out the sides with their ARs, and they're protecting the cowboys that they brought in from other states that the government has hired to come steal these cattle that are owned by the Bundy family and take them off of the land. They corral them up, and then they're sending them out to auction. But here's the most important part that every single one of your listeners and viewers needs to understand. Here in this community in Clark County, the sheriff refuses to kick the BLM out, and they have constitutional authority to do that. He refused to do it. He has just kowtowed to them. The BLM has set it up so that if you're driving down the road and you pull over and you step foot in the dirt, you're immediately brought to federal prison. Now, is this just a conspiracy theory?
Wait, hold on a second. Say that again. What is the condition that they've laid out?
Okay, I'm gonna repeat this, and then I'm also gonna state what happened to one of the Bundy family members.
Yes.
He pulled off the side of the road on the pavement. If you leave the pavement and you go to the dirt and you stop your vehicle, it's on Santilli, man. There's a copy of the placard by 18 USC, whatever it is. They say that they will take you away. 20 guys took one of the Bundy members, family members, took him to the ground, stuck their boot in the back of his neck, handcuffed him, and stuck him in a federal prison for 3 days.
And now this is... Well, hold on. The justification for this, I mean, everything that's behind this is the desert tortoise, right? There's a rare desert tortoise out there that was discovered sometime after this ranch had been established, and now they have to kick everybody off this land, right? And that's the excuse for all this. Everything hinges on that, correct?
It does. Now listen. We got a lot of activity out here. A lot of great noise, by the way.
Yeah,
That's good
Pete,
noise.
I got to say, it is really exciting to see that so many people have come out in support. I'm so glad to be able to share this with our audience. That there are people coming out and supporting the Bundy family.
No, absolutely, and again, I'm going to say it again. There are thousands of people. Probably, I think the population is about 2,500 people. Mm-hmm. These people are essentially sheltered in place. Okay, if they stop their vehicle on the side of the road and they step foot on the dirt, okay, they will be taken to federal prison. Now, the BLM has a zero tolerance policy because they want to make an example out of everyone. Everyone is in fear right now. Now, the complaint that was filed, was filed by a left-wing environmental group that claims to be or is instigated to defend the rights of the tortoise. I haven't seen the complaint, but I heard that was the origination of this entire event. Now, coincidentally, the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, cannot manage. They cannot handle 600,000 acres and protect the tortoise. So you know what they're doing? They're euthanizing tortoises.
Wait
and this is a true story.
So, I'm sorry, you just like blew a fuse in my brain. One more time. You got to unpack that just a little bit, please.
You can look this up again. The BLM has stated that they cannot take care of the tortoises, essentially, in meat and potatoes language. They cannot manage the tortoises, especially on this land. They've begun to euthanize a portion of the population because it's unmanageable. So the legal justification that the courts have set out, a court order essentially dictating that the cattle, the property, possession of the Bundy family, must be confiscated, removed from the property. No residents are allowed to go on this land, and it is literally a shelter-in-place, almost an undeclared state of martial law. Now, main point here, guess what? It's great to see people out here, but even still, with the number of people we have here, we're outnumbered by federal authorities. If we lose our rights here at the Bundy Ranch, it's because the American people permitted the federal government to do what they're doing right now. And I want to encourage anyone in the vicinity, if you can afford the means to get out here, I need you to get out here. I say I need you. Absolutely. We need everybody to get out here, right? Yeah! That's right. Because we will peacefully, we will go to the BLM. I've already spoken to their command structure here. We want peace. Ultimately, the end game is that we get the sheriff to tell them to leave, and the people will go there and repossess the cattle that are rightfully owned by the Bundy family.
How many cattle have been stolen at this point? Hello, Pete, are you there? All right, it looks like we've got a connection issue with Pete. He's coming live from the Bundy Ranch, so I don't know what but he's obviously using some kind of unwired mobile hotspot. I want to get into this story a little bit more and give people some of the background because this is a really significant showdown. And to get to the heart of the the issue here, you've got a homesteading situation where people for generations have been essentially saying there's unclaimed public land. We're going to graze cattle on it. We're going to have our ranch here. We are claiming this. We are using this. We are not impeding anybody else's usage or enjoyment of the so-called public land, which is, of course, government-controlled land. And it was actually, this has been brewing for some time now because the BLM decided to change their regulations and start charging for grazing for this cattle rancher, and he refused and said, no, we have usage rights here. We have natural rights here. And I'm really excited that so many conservatives right now are taking this issue to heart, because it really
the person
challenges
whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable.
A lot of the presumptions
Please leave a
that people
message
make
after the
about
beep.
government and land management. Because if you're a conservative and you go, holy crap, the government is kicking a rancher off his land or his grazing land in order to save the tortoise, there's a much more deeper issue here. Because it's not just like, okay, you have your land and we've let it be yours and we've acknowledged that it's yours, and you've got some endangered species on it and we're now kicking you off. But do you, as an individual human being, have a right to use natural resources that aren't being used by someone else? Or can the government simply prevent you from doing that? Now, there's a lot more to the stories. We see, like here, I've got a picture pulled up on the monitor of a whole host of white SUVs, those aren't ranch vehicles, and a helicopter with snipers sitting in the door. I mean, we're talking about essentially a war zone here, a domestic war zone. You have troopers coming in, attacking a small family that's got a ranch, and they're stealing their cattle. This has already started where several hundred cattle have been stolen, at least from the reports that we've seen. I'm seeing reports that it's the Bureau of Land Management exclusively out there right now, which makes you wonder, why does the Bureau of Land Management have helicopter-mounted snipers? And of course, this speaks to the whole general enforcement of federal laws and everything like that. But if you believe that government is essential to managing property disputes, to building the roads and things like that, well, then you're going to look at a story like this and be like, well, of course they're going to kick him off his land. He's been resisting central control, and yes, it's a tragedy and so sad, but it's going to drive you one of two ways. Either it's going to reinforce your belief that government is good and necessary, and it's it has some unfortunate consequences, but this is a good thing that we're kicking a rancher off his land, in order to save some tortoises and reclaim the land for the government. Or you go in the complete opposite direction. And I think there are a lot more people being pulled that way right now. Yes, here. All right, we've got Pete coming back on here. Let's see if we can get him up. And to see that this has become such a flashpoint of a story and a major national incident now is really exciting. And I hope that in talking about this, people are not just going, oh my gosh, that's a tragedy, or oh my gosh, that's that's so horrible that that he's losing his land, but okay, well, it makes sense. But that they really start examining these underlying issues about property rights and homesteading. Pete, welcome back. How's everything going out there?
I had my iPad sitting on the roof of my car with those beautiful people that were waiting there to say hello to you, and it shut down. It overheated, so sorry about that.
No worries. So what's the latest? Do we still have another group of Rangers on approach to the protest here?
Here's the conservative count is the multiple hundreds of Rangers. They are fully staffed, fully armed, well outfitted. I don't know if I mentioned it in the previous segment. If you caught what I said, we had an Apache helicopter here within the past 24 hours. Mm-hmm. We had actually there are pictures. I didn't see it personally myself, but a commercial helicopter assisting with the confiscation of the cattle. They're literally stealing the Bundy's cattle. They're confiscating their cattle, and they're escorting the ranchers, the ranch hands, the cowboys, with helicopter gunships, essentially. They don't want to be deterred from doing this. They're of course, asserting their force upon the local population. They won't let them go anywhere outside of the boundaries that I discussed earlier. But ultimately, we need tens of thousands of people here. There's no reason why we cannot. Now, Why do we need tens of thousands of people here? Like I was mentioning before, you know what these people want to do? They want to go to the BLM personnel and say, you know what? It's time for you guys to pick up your marbles and leave. And we're going to repossess the cattle that you've stolen and take it back and give them to the Bundys.
But this is a far more high stakes showdown than just the Bundy Ranch, because if the BLM stands down, they're basically saying, okay, no, we don't own the land. We are going to respect your rights to homestead. And if that's the case, it sets what they would probably describe as a dangerous precedent. People can go out and actually use the land that's not being used for productive purposes when they instead want to control it and herd people into cities. Are people there, do you think, seeing these bigger issues? Because if they lose, if the government wins, and the Bundys lose, then it means we go back to, well, the government owns all the land and we have to just bend over and take it whenever they challenge us on that. Are people seeing that bigger issue, or is it really right now just about turtles versus cows and ranchers?
No, it's what's amazing is that the general populace is not even aware of what the true power of a constitutional sheriff has. He has the ultimate constitutional authority. People have no idea. And in fact, most sheriffs don't even know this. This is why, Sheriff Mack from the CSPOA travels around the country educating peace officers and sheriffs, because even they don't realize the power they have. Well, the populace believes that the federal government owns this land that they're in fact managing, but it's owned by the state of Nevada, by the people in the sovereign state of Nevada. The BLM, guess what? There is paperwork, believe it or not, there's a legal framework which allows counties to repossess that land, to reclaim that land and tell the BLM, we no longer need your services and we're not going to pay you any longer for it. The BLM is nothing but an overpaid landlord.
That's a pretty good way of putting it. Well, I hope that a lot of people take this, issue in terms of the broader context. But let's get back to some of the specifics here. I understand you've got a good crowd there. Can you give us a sense of the layout? Where are the cattle? Where are these roads? Or where are you relative to the property and the ranch itself? Where are the rangers right now?
Okay, right now we are at a frame of reference. If you go to Google Maps, you look at the 15 freeway north of Las Vegas, about 80 miles, exit 112. Okay, and there's a road. This is called the Riverside Camp, and essentially it's about 8 miles off of the freeway. And this is a camp that's on private land. There's a lot of acreage that the Bundy family owns. All right, now this sits right in the middle of this 600,000 acres, of course. Regardless of the acreage of private property that's owned that we're operating on, there's 600,000 acres that this cattle, essentially since 1877, has been allowed to graze on. The past 20 years, the BLM has said you can no longer allow those cows to graze on this land, and it's been a battle that's been going on for 20 years. Now, the cattle is interspersed. I mean, they are just roaming as you would want them to do, roaming and grazing, to be, of course, the Bundy family is a producer of red meat. So they go out there, wrestle them up. They've got cowboys out here in the same way that they wrestle those steer up. And I don't know if I'm using the right term. I'm from New York, by the way. But they have cowboys that bring in their cattle. Right now, we have cowboys that are hired as contractors of the federal government. They got brand new trucks, brand new trailers, and they are out there literally stealing Bundy branded cattle from the hills all around us. Now, what happens is the BLM sends out a strike team of 10 to 20 brand new SUVs, which, by the way, are all highly armed. And this has been confirmed. There are also either former special forces, okay, or corporate mercenaries that have been allowed to wear the BLM uniform. They're the hired guns, essentially. They're the enforcers.
Hold on a second. Hired. Now,
yes, sir.
Now I that again, stretching. Just I get, even as someone who understands what government is. Mm-hmm. For this, what are we talking, like triple canopy, Blackwater type mercenaries that are now hired as just like extra guns for the BLM?
This is exactly the way it was put to me, confirmed by a family Bundy member who knows a local law enforcement official pretty high up here in the local community, that the special forces individuals have been told to suit up with BLM uniforms, but they're assisting with the extrication of the cattle and the protection of the cowboys, the ranchers, as well as the BLM associates that are caravanning around.
I actually read about this, and it's a little bit different from Blackwater and Z, that kind, triple canopy kind of mercenaries like they were in Iraq. But yeah, I don't know, the reports were that it was there were other ranch hands that were being hired to help move the cattle, and somebody that were hired to specifically be armed and help provide security for that. Which just you would think if they have all this money to spend on helicopters and snipers, if moving cattle is their legitimate task, that they'd be able to handle that in house. The last thing I really want to get into here is the nature of the showdown and the use of force. So if you would start first, what is the role or what position has the sheriff taken on this?
The sheriff, his name is Sheriff Gillespie, and as it was put to me by Sheriff, I called Sheriff Mack yesterday, and I asked him, hey, can we convene a meeting with this constitutional sheriff or unconstitutional sheriff and see if we can't get him to kick the BLM out? And Sheriff Mack has said that he is a liberal, unconstitutional sheriff that cares more about the trinkets he receives from the federal government than abiding by his oath, of course. So that's Sheriff Gillespie here in Clark County. I believe somebody like him should be placed under citizen arrest by one of the local county citizens for failing to keep his oath, especially putting so many lives at risk right now. But the showdown, you want to hear about the showdown?
Well, I mean, I just want to say real quick, it is nice to know that we have someone like Sheriff Mack who can at least explore that option and tell us when it's hopeless that the people have elected the wrong guy to protect them. So yes, well, first, back to the history of this. Mr. Bundy, Cliven, originally said that he was prepared to resist and used some language suggestive of forceful or violent resistance. Is that correct?
I would say this, and I know because I spoke to him at sunrise this morning as to what we wanted what his family and what the protesters wanted the end game to be. It's really important that everyone recognizes that we want a peaceful resolution. In fact, if we could outnumber the BLM, that's been the struggle up to this point, is to outnumber them. That by that show of force, peaceful, we could make demands and go there and say, BLM, it's time for you to go. Constitutional sheriff says you need to leave. By his constitutional authority, please go. Give us the cattle back. And they pick up their marbles and they go home. That's the ultimate goal. Now, what they want is a little bit different. And I say they. Janet Reno wanted to stick her tank snoot into the side of one of those buildings in Waco, okay? And we have an Eric Holder at this point, I would say that we can all agree, would be a little bit more dangerous than Janet Reno.
Absolutely.
We have federal agents on the ground right now, unmarked vehicles, waving badges. I was at the compound. There are federal agents in addition to the BLM agents that are here on the ground. I saw them personally. Now, where they came from, under whose direction, God only knows. But guess what, Adam? Here's my biggest fear, is that we do not get the American people to realize that now is the time that you show up to something like this if you want a peaceful resolution to our grievances.
Absolutely.
My biggest fear. Yep.
Well, are people there prepared to resist by force?
They are, but guess what? That's not even that's not the tempo. That's not the theme of the message. That's not what we're doing here. We have women, we have family members here who understand what's at stake here. Are they prepared to lay their lives on the line, just as our founding fathers would expect us to do in the face of tyranny? Are they prepared to do that? Yes, only in their defense. No one, I have not met one person that will fire one shot first. Absolutely not.
It seems like it's developing into an interesting standoff, and we've seen how when you have protests with a critical mass of people engaging in civil disobedience, the police stand down and leave them alone. And it sounds like if you don't get more support, it could be forceful and violent in how they take you, the protesters, the supporters, and the Bundys off this land and their cattle. But that if there's a critical mass of nonviolent resistance, there may be a way to resist without forcefully interfering with anything that the government agents are doing. Is that kind of a correct summary there? That it's a matter of whether or not that critical mass gets there as to how this plays out?
Yeah, I mean, we have, and right now, in the several hundreds of protesters are spread out because there's auctions that are going on. They're actually protesting at these auctions. They're taking these cattle that they're pulling off the ranch that are branded with the Bundy name, and they're selling them at auction. So the protesters are even scattered out. But guess what? There's no reason. All right, I'm 80 miles from Las Vegas. There's no reason why we can't have 10,000 people get on the freeway and drive here right now. No reason whatsoever. Now, there's no reason why we can't get, more than that from the Pacific Southwest. If we do, guess what happens? We walk up to the BLM. I mean, I will personally stand there and say, guess what, guys? Stand down. We don't want any unsafe situation. Please step aside. Let's go get the cattle. It's time for you guys to go home. Thank you very much for coming. Take your coffee and leave. Right? And it's over. And it's done. We win. By force? No, in numbers.
So it sounds like there's a couple options here. If there's no more support for Mr. Bundy, he's going to get quietly brushed aside. The cattle are going to keep getting stolen one by one, and the issue will be buried and forgotten. If there's short of a critical mass of resistance there, it may be that the BLM is forcefully removing protesters and people who are trying to nonviolently resist, and it becomes another story like Waco or Ruby Ridge, and we really hope it doesn't come to that. But if there is a critical mass there and the BLM stands down, that this could be a major victory for freedom in America and a significant turning point in the relationship between the people and the government. How do you actually predict that this is going to play out now? I'm telling you, I only have one fear, is that people do not respond to this calling right now. I mean, I said it's time to go. It's time for me to go there and make a stand and be present and try to involve myself in this stand against tyranny. And if other people do not do that same exact thing, then we essentially, the rights that we lose have been surrendered voluntarily at that point. Well, there's one other question I'll ask that's really important to how this plays out, and that's about the timing, because we saw that this really goes back about a decade, and it's been escalating recently, and we've been hearing about this story for about a week now that they've been moving against him. But is it possible that if a critical mass shows up, that the BLM will simply wait you out and then swoop in?
I spoke to them. I spoke to their top command that are running the entire show. Top law enforcement officials. I said, look, we're here for your family's future as well. And the perfect scenario is for us to amass a large number of people to get you to the point, and your boss to the point to where he gives you an order to go home, and you go home peacefully. We take the Bundy's cattle. And we educate the public that the BLM has zero land ownership rights anywhere in the United States of America. We need to let everyone know that we must reclaim this land that's being managed anywhere in the country by the BLM. They have zero authority whatsoever. So were they willing to accept that? You know what? I believe that they were. They want a peaceful resolution as well. I mean, all they're doing, guess what they said? They believe, Adam, that what they're doing is fulfilling their constitutional obligation to go by that court mandate. They have a court order that's requiring them to come and steal cattle. Right. Okay? They believe they have a constitutional mandate, and that's what they're operating under. They truly believe that.
Well, I hope that at least this is getting them to question the morality of what they're doing. I'm really glad that you're there on the ground. For anybody who's in Las Vegas, certainly, yeah, like you said, there's no reason not to get out there. And in terms of the scale of time, this is playing out in the next few days. You have BLM agents that have moved, that have converged. You have people that have been hired for an operation, not for an encampment, not for a new field office there. They are converging in the field. This is not something we're not asking people to go out and didn't camp out for months and defend some cattle. This is something that is playing out in the next few days. It's a very urgent issue and one that is unfolding. We're going to keep bringing you more. Pete, please stay in touch. If you have any other reports to get on the ground, we'll definitely we can broadcast live at any time and get you back on the air here. We're really grateful to have people like you as friends of Adam versus the Man who are willing to bring us amazing reports like this from the field. Tell us about your show and where people can get more information about this, and then where they can find more about how to find the Bundy Ranch and how to support the Bundys.
My show is everything about doing what everyone else wants to do, is to restore our Constitution. I've been now 600 and something episodes just shouting at the top of my lungs sometimes, at the top of my voice, that we must do something. For every day that passes, though, here's the good thing about it. Now that we've gone, and you've gone many episodes as well, it's given us more opportunity to awaken more and more people. So as each day passes that we don't restore the Constitution, get back to, where we need to be, that's one more day that we have to awaken people. I want to encourage everyone to participate in taking back our country, getting rid of guys like Harry Reid, getting rid of the BLM, and I have to move my vehicle right now because Glenn Beck's truck's pulling up.
Well, you got him, Scoot. Pete, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I gotta go, guy.
All right, appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Santilli, PeteSantilli.com. We're going to go straight now to our next guest, Big Mike the Terror, the Big Plantation. And Mike has got some exciting ideas. Anyways, that was a really fun story. I'm glad that we got Pete Santilli here. But these bigger issues, you can't equivocate on this when you and a lot of people are going to see that story about the Bundy Ranch and go, well, it's unfortunate, it's a consequence of this, that, and the other. Like, no, it's there are deeper principles here about land usage rights and about relationship to the government and homesteading. And I'm really excited that this has become a national story. I'm really excited to see that people are talking about this now and hopefully reconsidering some of the issues behind it. Mike, are you with us?
I am, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you got a webcam?
I don't. I have my phone. That's the best I got right this second.
All right. Well,
I'm going to be investing in equipment soon.
All right. Well, no worries, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us. Michael Heiss is the host of The Big Plantation on FPRNRadioNetwork.com. It's a multifaceted live show featuring an anarchist and two minarchists. Yeah, coming right out with that. But today we want to talk to Mike about something that he has. It's a very important issue we want to get into more for the movement. So, Mike, please let us know, what is it that you think is most important for the movement to consider in terms of applying the non-aggression principle in a broader way?
Well, I don't know if I would say it's the most important, but just something to kind of add to it, because I think people get caught up on the physical aspect of violence, and I think it's important to kind of lock down the definition of violence, because we use etymology to define anarchism. We go back to the Greek definition of anarchism as having no masters. Well, if you use etymology to define violence, it's simply the verb form of violate. So when you consider its violatory action, it kind of encompasses a lot more things than just physical violence or force of aggression. So I think we should basically what I would say that encompasses is the idea of emotional or mental violence.
Well, how did you come to start thinking about this issue, Mike?
Being through depression, honestly, and how people can have a real actual effect on your mentality. Now, obviously, it's incumbent upon us to deal with that the best we can. No one's saying like, oh well, you called me fat, so I get to stab you or anything crazy like that. But I think that that there is a place for it, and it's not much different than if you were to go to court and say, let's say you got in a fight with somebody. Obviously, one side is going to say, oh, he hit me first, and the other side is going to be saying, I claim self-defense. Well, if I think it kind of works out in the same kind of way of malicious intent on somebody mentally or emotionally, and putting it that way, it sounds like, oh well, bullying or just making fun of somebody and or a friendly jab at somebody, a joke or whatever. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about something more extreme than that. Like, for example, if I'm married and somebody has sex with my wife, how is that not an attack on my mentality? Like, that's like changing my life for the negative.
Well, hey, Mike, now I'd like to sort of cut in here for a second, because there are two sides to this in terms of the violator and the violated. And you mentioned depression. Now, I read a book recently called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, and highly recommended. And one of the points in this is that, in the book, is that, we use violent communication, and that is communication that is either judgmental or anything that is not a truly open, honest, direct communication. And the intent is always either, even if it's not deliberate, subconsciously, to manipulate someone else emotionally. And the reason it works is because we then talk to ourselves that way. And, it's about how you, if you want to talk to other people in a way that's positive and nonviolent and encouraging and supportive, or at least in a way that is honestly communicating something directly yourself, then, you're not going to cause that kind of emotional pain. But there's an internal dialogue. And when you're, and I've dealt with depression. I've dealt with when I was much younger, and I've dealt with post-traumatic stress disorder. And it seems like all of this can be explained through communication in terms of our internal dialogue and speaking. And when you're depressed, your mood is sort of out of your control, because you're in a pattern of negative internal dialogue where you're judging yourself and you're telling yourself negative things. Do you think that kind of has a parallel to what you're talking about, the revelation that you got from coming out of your own depression?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's different for different people, but my experience with it is it's almost like an addiction to negative behavior that's out of your, like, it's habitualizing negative, or not negative behavior, negative thoughts about yourself. Or an addiction, or habitualizing those negative thoughts to where you can't control them, or you have to, at the very least, exert. You have to, like, catch it, realize you're doing it, and exert another external force mentally to reverse it. And that's what I think gets demagogued the most. People saying, "Oh, well, you just want to, lash out in anger." Well, no. I mean, if you get attacked physically, no one's saying, "All right, well, don't take care of your wounds. Just, if you break a bone, don't go get a cast or whatever in an attack." It's kind of the same way. Yes, you're going to have to tend to yourself and, not allow it to for you to be an excuse to violate the NAP, but I don't think it's not a violation of the NAP to be done to you.
So how is this relevant for libertarians or the broader movement? What is your advice, or what is the conclusion of this insight that you think people can benefit from?
Because freedom isn't just physical. Freedom, I mean, we understand that the main mechanism of control is the belief in authority, therefore making it all psychological, making it all mental, and therefore emotional. We feel subservient, or most people feel subservient and feel like they're indebted or they're obligated to not self-govern. You know what I mean? So and that's kind of a that sets the pace for what government is, because we have habitualized this kind of negative thinking about ourselves into subservience. So I think it all starts mentally. So if we can, I think we basically have to embrace freedom on a mental level before it can ever manifest physically.
So, how does this affect then outreach? I mean, what does this actually look like for the movement? I mean, because I can talk about libertarians, if we applied the non-aggression principle to our language and the way we relate to others and all these things that are nonviolent, it means that we're not going to be yelling at people, telling them that they're wrong. You would never do that in nonviolent communication, or call someone stupid or judge them. So how does this change people's behavior, as activists?
I think it opens us up to traits like empathy and understanding and being able to put yourself in the other party's shoes, because once you understand it within yourself, all right, treat people how you don't want to be treated in a physical and emotional, mental sense, and I think you're a lot more likely to get better results. I personally, going out and do street interviews, I try to have a very approachable way, as opposed to say insulting people where they're just going to clam up or lock up. And I've had a lot of success with it, but I think you'll see a lot more open communication and a lot less anger if there's that respect for freedom on that level.
Awesome, Mike. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Any final thoughts on this subject that you think are important to share?
Honestly, I'm still formulating it in my head. I'm writing it all down, and we're going to be I'm going to be releasing my thesis on it here soon once we have thebigplantation.com up. But
Well, you take live callers on your show, correct?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Well, where can people find out more about that if they'd like to continue the conversation with you?
Right now we're on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thebigplantation, and also Twitter @bigplantation. And also we are, I've just got a couple volunteers, and one's taking care of our Twitter. We're also reaching out to worldtruth.org, which is an alternate social media. Anybody who likes Facebook will feel right at home. It's essentially a Facebook clone without the restrictions, without the choking of the organic reach. You get 100% organic reach on there. It's great function wise. So we're gonna try and outreach to that and try and make one of these alternative media outlets more viable.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike. FPRNradionetwork.com as well. And any final plugs?
Yeah, FPRNradio.com. And there's a lot of great people on there. I'm on there. Cop Block Radio's on there. Dutch Sense is on there. And Anthony Antonello's on there. And I personally feel my show's really fun because of that aspect. I'm the lone anarchist, so I get the brunt of it. It's
You mean
fun.
You're the only libertarian?
Yes.
That's funny. There are a lot of people who think they know what freedom is or like freedom, but haven't really figured out yet. Mike, it's been really cool to see how you've come along and how you've developed your own activism and to see the way that you do your man on the street videos as well, and the way that you talk to people. Naturally, just from knowing you and from talking to you and seeing you talk to other people, you are a pretty natural, nonviolent communicator. I mean, you're really good about that, about talking to people from this perspective already, and I think that's one of your greatest strengths as an activist.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting back out on the streets. It's one of the big things that I enjoy. So that and one of the things that we focus on with the Big Plantation is the use of music as a medium of uniting people. I have to thank you for allowing me to start that kind of platform when I was interning for you last year. But we've taken that to a new level on the Big Plantation of essentially taking bands and artists that have positive messages that we would recognize in the liberty movement, but the liberty movement isn't necessarily associated with the artist. So they'll bring their unique. The hope is that they bring their unique audience with them to our show. That those people hear our message, and then our people will hear the message in the music, and everybody wins.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to be taking more Skype calls from the audience in just a few minutes. We have one more story to cover, but if you'd like to get in the queue, send me a chat. Not a contact request, just a chat. Just let me know what you'd like to talk about or why I should have you on the show. Make it good. Make it interesting. We haven't had any video bombs yet dropped on the show, but I know it's going to happen sooner or later. The Skype address is Adam, A-D-A-M, Kokesh, K-O-K-E-S-H, all run together. So get in the queue, and in just a few minutes, we're going to turn this over to the audience for some Skype calls. But first, from Infowars.com, high school student arrested after notifying principal, "We're disappointed in you." Now, there was a little bit more to it than that. 200 students staged a sit-in last Wednesday around noon at the Lake Central High School in St. John, Indiana. And according to Adon Salazar, who wrote this story, protesting their school's apparent lack of concern for one of their peers who recently committed suicide. And this whole thing was about just a moment of silence. I mean, you're at a high school and a student commits suicide. You would think, yeah, we want to acknowledge that. A moment of, if a handful of students are saying, look, we're hurting, loss of our friend, can we have a moment of silence? Can we do this over the PA? Can we, that was the nature of the demand being made here, and the principal refused, and so they staged a sit-in. They had 200 students in the middle of the building there, and as you probably know by now, most high schools, or at least a lot of high schools, have either private security guards or some kind of armed guards or some kind of police presence even. And in this case, by the time the principal went out to go and talk to the students in the sit-in, he made sure that he already had a couple police officers right there with him. So he's lecturing them. He's telling them, thank you. Can you please sit down now? You're not in charge here. I am. And that was the principal, not in response to a student, but to the mother of the child who committed suicide, when she said, "One moment of silence for my son over the intercom. That is all we are asking for from the school." Yeah. As he said, "I am disappointed in every one of you." And so one of the students simply responded, "We're disappointed in you." And all the principal has to do is say, "I'd like him removed, please." And the police come and drag him away. And it wasn't just like a slap on the wrist, okay, well, the police had to remove you because you were being unruly in a school and we suspended you. No, he got arrested. He was taken to the Lake County Jail, released on bond. He was charged with disorderly conduct. Not for sitting in, not for disrupting the school, but for under that circumstance in which 200 other students were doing the exact same thing, simply standing up. Actually, he was still sitting down when he said it. Not even standing up and saying, "We're disappointed in you." Now, if you want to apply some distorted, twisted property rights concept with the government owning the school and the principal being in charge, yes, he has a right to say, "You're being disruptive, leave." But he is charging him now criminally with disorderly conduct for saying, "We're disappointed in you." Right. As the principal stated, there is a right and wrong way to solve a problem. A sit-in/open protest is not the right way. And the reason we actually have this is not just from the witnesses of the students that were there and the parents and the teachers, but that there was a cell phone recording made surreptitiously. And you can imagine if you started recording the principal, how he might freak out. You can tell that the person recording is kind of doing it covertly where they can't be seen. But InfoWars really buries the lead on this story, because as significant as this is, the day of the sit-in protest, another student at this school committed suicide. You think that's normal? You think maybe in a school system where they say, "Oh, well, if a student commits suicide, we're not even going to offer a moment of silence. We're going to keep our students packed into cemetery seating. We're going to keep killing their minds with propaganda. We're going to keep destroying their natural inclination to learn. We're going to make it painful to assimilate data into their minds. And if they kill themselves, well, we're going to brush it aside because it doesn't matter, because you're just another cog in the machine." Well, guess what? Maybe that has something to do with encouraging suicide. And we have a much deeper problem here, obviously, with the American education system. All right, so we're going to open this up now to you, the viewer. If you'd like to call in, we go now to Skype. Jeffrey, can you get us to shot 3, please? Let's get into the Skype chats here. We're just going to go from the top. We've actually got some follow-up from Stefan Molyneux from yesterday. He wanted me to put the pictures from my OkCupid profile in the video of him analyzing my OkCupid profile, and I said, "Rich, why ruin the surprise? Why give people something right there when instead we can drive all of this traffic of people who are going, I got to see these pictures, right to my OkCupid profile." Right? Why make it easy for them to see see pictures of me with my shirt off? That's not going to happen. But thank you for the suggestion, Stefan. All right, Danielle Falkenbach is adding me as a contact. Nope. All right, Michael King. What up, Adam? I'm a fellow veteran, which is a debate in itself, and have plenty of questions for you. Some about the show, some about NAP, voluntarism. So maybe a hypothetical or two. I hope you pick me today, brother. Peace. Yeah, I changed my mind. I want to debate voluntarism versus being a veteran. The internal conflict. Add in some PTSD and maybe a question or two about the show. All right, Michael, welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
What's up? Am I on?
You are on. Yeah, but you got to turn off the stream so we're not getting feedback and turn your video camera on. Can you do that for us?
How's that?
Oh, that's better for the audio. Can you you got a video camera?
I do. I don't really know how to turn it on, to be honest.
Well, there should be a button at the bottom of your Skype call. Hey, it's coming up. Brilliant.
Oh.
See, we can teach anybody to be that much more high tech in about 10 seconds here at Adam versus the Man. All right, Michael, what are you wearing on your head?
An upside down flag. I know. I'm a terrorist. What am I thinking?
Yeah. Why do you hate America?
I don't. I love it. I'm a veteran, bro. I love America. But it's compromised. To be honest, I think we can agree there.
What are you trying to communicate with that?
What's that? How America's compromised? I don't know. The whole killing machine of what?
With the inverted flag.
That nation in distress. It's pretty simple. Our nation is in distress. It has been for a long time. You could argue 1850. You could argue 1913. I'm not really sure. I don't have the answers, but we're fucked.
Now, if you would, real briefly, what's your military background? Any deployment experience?
Yeah. I went to Afghanistan. I was in the active army for about 5 years. 13 brought cannons, and then I was a scout for a while.
So, have you seen any of the videos of other veterans when they see an inverted American flag at a protest flipping out?
Yeah, that's nonsense, man. That's a racket. It's all a racket. That's violating what we swore to uphold the First Amendment, but it's okay to stop people from expressing themselves. I don't think it works that way.
Have you ever had that? Have you ever had another veteran come and look at your hat and be like, "Hey, motherfucker, you got to turn that around. Why do you hate America?"
I actually haven't. I do the public trans thing, so people have said shit on the bus, and I'm like, well, actually, it's not upside. It's the right way. So
that's a great conversation starter.
Nobody's ever really gotten into it. I guess it's kind of a touchy subject. I'm in Rhode Island, so everybody's liberal and afraid to speak.
Well, do you get good conversations out of that?
No. I get looked like a blasphemer, or I don't know.
Well, it's got to be a way to at least get people talking. But no, people freak out and they don't want to talk when
pretty much. They look at me like I'm funny. The libertarian shirts and that kind of stuff gets people talking. Cop block kind of shirts like that kind of do, but the hat now.
Well, it's too bad, What's that?
In a class once, I have the "Don't Tread on Me" in the back of it. Somebody asked me, and I tried to explain. They're like, "Oh, so it's a flag, an American flag? Oh, cool, right."
Well, you would hope that we sell T-shirts and we encourage people to do daily outreach in their lives and
of course. And debate is the key, man.
Well, exactly, and people put messages out through what they wear and through their presence that are controversial and that stimulate conversation. I'm really curious because you're a great test case for wearing the inverted flag. And this is a much broader point about libertarian outreach, is that we want to be non-confrontational in the way that we talk to individuals when we're having a peaceful conversation. We never want to call anybody stupid or anything like that, but we do want to separate the ideas from the person, right? We want to challenge their ideas. We want to encourage them to think differently or consider a different perspective. And sometimes you got to grab people by the collar to grab their attention, and it's great for that. But I would hope that you could still for the hardcore indoctrinated statist, nationalist, seeing an inverted American flag is like a dagger to the brain. I mean, it really is, right?
And it's taken as such a dramatic insult or heathenism to the state, the church of the state or whatever, where it's like, yeah, but you praise a state that is bound to a constitution that is taken seriously, and the First Amendment, which you support, lets me wear what the shit I want to. Get out of here. And you swore an oath to defend that. When I see the veteran pulling flags down videos, that just makes me shake my head.
Well,
that's making you a hypocrite for fighting against what you swore to uphold. You do know what swear means, right? You
Well,
know what oath means, right?
I hope all of the veterans that have done this and those videos, I mean, yeah, there have been 2 or 3 now that have gotten out, and you just see veterans, okay, you're protesting, you've got inverted American flag, like freak out, like flip out, like start physically assaulting people. I hope for their benefit that someday they have the wisdom to be embarrassed by that.
We're getting there, man. We're getting there.
But also,
questions.
in stimulating that thought, and it is a great symbol, you know, it's important to separate the shock activism from the, you know, peaceful conversational outreach activism. So anyway,
right, that's what I'm about, man. I'm about like philosophical debate. Just like talk to me and you know, use that logic muscle, you know?
All right. So what you had some questions for me, man. What's going on?
I do. I was going to ask about the theme song, but it seems like it might be back. We want the theme song, dude. We like it.
The the Rebel Inc., right?
Yeah. We want that to stay around.
Okay.
Why we're fucked. Bring that back.
The reason we're fucked. All right.
Yeah. Right.
All right. All right.
You know, I was gonna say you the viewer, but this is like you the viewer evolved. So.
Oh yeah, way better. Oh, yeah, with video Skype. I mean, come on, we're taking the viewer.
This is an improvement here. Your presidential candidacy.
All right.
Potential.
Yes.
Like, I'm not gonna vote for you. I don't recommend voting. That is violent and poisonous. But what's your platform, man? What's it about? I know dismantling the federal government, but what are you really trying to do here?
Actually, I'm really glad that you asked this question, because there have been a few maybe trolls, and I think there's some legitimacy to it. They, as you point out, represent genuine sentiment in the broader audience when they say, "Oh, you're a libertarian and yet you want to run for office. That's so you're such a statist." And I am running for president in 2020 on the platform of a peaceful, orderly dissolution of the United States federal government. Now, you might say, "Oh, wow, well, I said I'm an anarchist, I can't vote," but that's really tempting, right? Doesn't it? Am I right?
It is. You might get me there. You might, but at this current point, I can't vote, man. I can't do it.
You can't bring yourself to have that kind of direct involvement with the state. Okay, I can totally appreciate that.
Involvement.
Right. So if you have to take a shower afterwards, that's fine. You know, you've got 6 years to plan for this radical act of voting that I am suggesting we take as libertarians. And I want to put this in a more important context of activism and interacting with the state. Because if you're an anarchist and you say, "Well, I don't vote because that's interacting with the state," well, guess what? Get the hell off government roads, or stop trying to talk trash and judge people who are doing things within the system to make it better. Now, I don't mean compromising your values. And when I say work within the system, I don't mean, you know, infiltrate and tell them you're something that you're not, or, you know, change your positions, or do something immoral now so that you can do something moral later. No. Not at all. But as an activist, anything that we do, if you're a libertarian because you believe in universal nonviolence as the definition or as, you know, the really defining feature of a free society, no one is aggressing against other people, then anything that we can do now in our lives, in our activism, to reduce coercion in society is valuable, worthwhile activism. And if it's running for office, and you can know that the result of you doing that is going to reduce coercion, or has the chance, it's worth exploring that as an option. Now, there are a lot of libertarians who do things in that realm that are totally useless. You know, I'm going to run for office so I can have my name on the ballot, and I'm going to go out and talk to people.
That's not libertarian.
Right. I'm going to go and talk to people about issues, and I'm not going to talk to them at all about philosophy or win them over or convert them. I'm just going to tell them, hey, I'm going to make their lives slightly better as an elected representative, and then get sucked into the system. But there are times when you can have a ballot measure. I mean, how many libertarians would honestly say that, you know, legalization of marijuana in Colorado and Washington State was a bad thing? I mean, those were exercises in statism. And if you think, you know, working within the state is the solution, and it's not the solution to everything, but it can be used to reduce coercion. So you certainly have no obligation to vote. I certainly understand if you want to, douse yourself in delousing powder or something, when you get out of the voting booth and you feel like you're somehow endorsing, a violent gang, but you're not. That's the thing, is it's not, voting is not an endorsement of the system. The act of voting in and of itself is an expression of preference in the way that this violent gang has said, we will receive your expression thusly as a mark on a piece of paper. And if
we allow you to.
Right. If that expression can have some impact, and it's also important to understand what voting is. Voting is the ex post facto justification for everything that the super class was going to do to us anyway, or at least what the government was going to.
I don't use big words like that, but yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so exactly,
we're choosing either torture with knives or torture with axes. We're going to let you take my money or you take my money.
Exactly. And so since they control the process and they're going to do all that stuff anyway, voting gives them an excuse to say, oh, but the people supported this. But hold on. Even if you didn't vote, even if you don't vote, even if 90% of the people don't vote, 5.1% becoming 51% is still enough for a politician to use as an excuse. But
True.
Because we have the paradigm has evolved from the state of nature to monarchy to whatever it is you want to call where we are today. Well, there is a direct connection between voting and what we get as governance. And when people realize that, they can use voting to dismantle government. And I think that's actually going to be the second most critical part of the process in a transition towards a free society. We see what's happened in Crimea. That would not have happened without a referendum. We see, independence movements now in northern Colorado, in Washington State, in Southwest Canada, in Catalonia, in Spain, in South America. I mean, like all over the world. We saw the Arab Spring. We saw where people are challenging, what does government look like? How is sovereignty something that we actually put into practice? And then it's like, well, if a region has a right to break off and be sovereign, don't I as an individual? And that process of dismantling the state is not going to happen all at once. It's a gradual process. And this is why I'm running for office, is that I think we can unite people who even aren't converted to the philosophy, who haven't realized that universal nonviolence is a better way for humanity to organize and get along. They can say, well, hey, I want more local government. I want, if I'm a statist, I believe that I need to be ruled, that people are inherently bad, that we need some authority over us. Okay, fine. Can we get on board with, you keep that in your area, keep it out of my area?
Out?
Exactly.
That's so difficult.
Exactly. And this is why I think localization through the political process is, and I said it's the second most important. The most important is education, the changing of the paradigm. Absolutely, first and foremost, no questions asked.
Get your kids the hell out of public school.
Absolutely.
Or just get rid of public schools.
Not public schools. Hold on. Don't use government schools. Government schools.
Right.
Because private schools are still public schools. So, in this process, the political role of being in a place to dismantle the state is going to be absolutely essential. I think we are much more likely to get a state to atomize, to dissolve, to local governments, and eventually down to communities, than we are to get a complete sort of overthrow or disintegration of government at all levels at the same time. And this has two really distinct benefits. One is that you can, it has lots of benefits. I mean, immediately you have more say in how you are governed. But it also has the benefit of providing for a peaceful transition, because there's a lot of property that the government has confiscated and taken control of.
You can't just turn a switch off and get rid of it overnight. Absolutely.
You don't want to pull the rug out from underneath anybody either. So we have the potential when you get down to the local level, to the counties, to the cities, to return property that has been basically confiscated by the government and handed over to corporations or handed over to government agencies, and return it to the people through cooperatives, through local companies, through organizations that are able to say this is now based on private property rights. And if you try to do that at a national level, I don't think you could pull it off. I think it'd be a lot worse. You could have some backlash. So does that answer your question? And can I count on your vote in 2020?
Well, to like paraphrase, quote you from, I think it was Adam versus the Man 3.0, maybe 2, I'm not sure. Where you thought, where you said Ron Paul was the compromise.
Yes.
That's kind of where I'm at with you. Like if I'm gonna ever vote, it's gonna be on somebody who I philosophically agree with, like actually, not what they pretend to say on TV. Like I know that we see eye to eye on most things. But,
all right, I actually, you know what? And you met all the little things that you mentioned, all the various features of the show. I love hearing stuff like that from fans. That is so huge. I absolutely thank you so much,
bro. We like your show, man.
And when the quote that you mentioned, I remember exactly when I was talking about that, and it was actually Chris Cantwell who came out with the rant and was like, "No, don't you get it? Ron Paul was the compromise. I'm not going to compromise and vote for Mitt Romney. That's not an acceptable compromise."
Dude, when you covered Mitt Romney and Obama, that was the best, some of the best stuff I've ever seen.
So the reason Ron Paul was the compromise is that all he wanted to do was reduce the government to fit inside the Constitution. The compromise there is at the end of that process, you still have a presidential election in the next 4 years. You still have a constitutional government that we had in, 1789.
We both know governments inherently grow 100% of the time, no matter what, throughout all of human history.
Cutting a cancer down, right? Cutting a tumor or a cancer down to 10% is a compromise. Getting rid of it entirely is the solution. And here's the difference. And I understand how you're saying even voting for me in this situation, and I don't want to say it's voting for me because it's not, but voting for someone that you trust to be true to these principles with this specific platform, right? Because it could be anybody. And honestly, I hope it's not me, but I'm ready to step up. I will be in 6 years. And more importantly,
32?
What's that?
What are you now?
Yeah, I'm 30. I'm 32 right now. But more importantly, when I am done as president in 4 years, there's not going to be another president. There will be no more compromise at the federal level. There will be no more federal American government, only a freer country.
Are you going to run GOP?
No, independent.
Okay, cool. That I can support.
One less thing to compromise on, right?
Right on.
All right. So what you had some questions about military issues or veteran issues?
Hey, are you going to Pork Fest?
Not this year. I'm going to be staying in my cave here.
Yeah, you're bound to stay there, right?
Not yet. Not yet. I'm not on house arrest. But no, one of the things I'm really trying to do, and with the new production, is be a lot more consistent with it.
Is this tobacco product okay?
Please feel free.
Oh, cool. Continue.
No, that's it. So I definitely encourage people to go to Pork Fest and be a part of the community there. And I'm a big fan of the Free State Project. I think it's amazing. I've been to 2 of them. It's an incredible spontaneous community. What's that?
This will be my first time.
Excellent.
Hey, what else? So yeah, I was thinking, you're a veteran. I know you. We don't need to get too personal, but I know you understand the combat stress, PTSD thing, whatever. The mental horror that goes along with it. So and that kind of attributes to what I'm gonna ask here. But as a voluntarist, which I got to give you credit for, and Stefan Molyneux, and my friend John Moss for. My philosophical evolution came to a halt once I really understood that term. That I was sold immediately, and I try as hard as I damn can to practice the NAP and, let people do what the shit they want that doesn't hurt me or spread it to them. Anyways, so with understanding voluntarism and being a voluntarist and a veteran and a war veteran, how the hell do you rationalize that and remain so confident? How can you, and I'm in the same boat, maybe I'm not popular like you, but how do you promote this brand of peace and freedom? Actually, no, it's the only real brand of peace and freedom. How do you promote this knowing that you blindly supported this saw blade, murderous, military, political killing machine, for lack of a better term? Actually, no, that kind of nails it.
No, that's it.
How do you remain so? How do you do that? I struggle with that, and I already kind of struggle with the sleep and whatnot, and this just kind of like amplifies the shame, the guilt aspects, if you will.
Well, I'm hearing you're conflicted about a contradiction, or an apparent contradiction, that you lived one way under one set of beliefs. Now you're living a different way under a different set of beliefs.
I also thought that I was doing good works. I was like the hardcore nationalist America. I was that guy,
Okay, well,
so I believed that I was doing good. My intentions were pure.
Okay, well, if you could then describe the struggle that you're experiencing now a little bit better.
Yeah, it's just actually pretty simple. How can I promote peace knowing the things that I've done and supported?
Humbly.
And that's what I try to do.
Humbly.
But it just always creeps up in the back of my head. You're a filthy hypocrite, and I am.
No,
and you are too.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. And I think this is to the broader issue of the word flip-flopper, right? And in the American political discourse, there's, the only thing worse than being a flip-flopper is a racist or a child molester. It really, if you're a politician and you're offering this service of, hey, I'm the guy who's going to tell you how it is, and I'm going to be in charge, and I'm going to pass the laws, and I'm going to organize society to my vision, you kind of want somebody who's thought that through. Right? And so to have someone flip-flop, you go, oh, wait a second, but if anything, I think we should really we really, especially as libertarians, have to change the expectations in the dialogue to encourage people to change their minds. And this is really important.
Yeah.
A lot of libertarians come out and talk and pretend like we've been libertarians our whole lives. And it's
my transition was sketchy at best.
And mine was mine too. And I've said this before. I'm a really slow learner. It took me 10 freaking years to figure this out. To go from being I'm a libertarian because I'm not going to be a lame Republican or Democrat to understanding it philosophically.
I became a libertarian because I thought I was smarter than everybody. It wasn't until I learned what voluntarism is that I really got it.
So I think the answer, and I understand how there's an emotional, part of this, right? The guilt.
You understand that. It's tough. It's big.
Guilt and shame, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly.
That's how you communicate it. You say, look, I realized what I was doing was wrong. I think this is what makes me, as powerful as I am as a messenger, is that I can say, what's that?
Very humble.
Well, I can, for whatever effectiveness I have, I can say, I screwed up. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, we did.
I have come to terms with my guilt and my shame around what I did in Fallujah or what I did in the Marine Corps. And I am better now as a result of having embraced these ideas. These ideas have made my life better. If I had not embraced these ideas, I would be doing more shameful things.
Of course.
I would be creating more pain in others. I would be creating more trauma for myself. I would be living in that misery. And if the message doesn't make your life better, and this, I really can't say this enough, if being a libertarian doesn't make your life better, you're doing it wrong.
If you're not having fun, you're doing that. You're in the wrong arena.
Exactly. So right. if you come to this and it does make your life better, or you chose it for a reason, nobody makes a choice, consciously or unconsciously, without believing it is somehow in their own self-interest. You embraced.
Tell that to the police.
Still, yeah, okay. There are a lot of things we could tell the police here. But if you have embraced the message because it makes your life better,
oh yeah,
share that. If you can say, look, these are things I did as a statist. These were wrong because I caused people pain. Everybody who votes for a mainstream politician is contributing to this now, and I have stopped doing that, and I am better. I feel better. I live better. My life is better as a result. No one's going to argue with that. If you say, hey, I figured something out, I'm trying to convince you of this, and you're wrong, and I'm right, here's why you should believe what I believe.
Stupid statist.
You're immediately setting up a conflict. It's you versus someone else. Instead, if you say, look, I want to share this. I've got some beautiful information. I've got a perspective that's improved my life, that's made me happier. Can I share it with you? Can I help you? Is that not more true to what we want to do as a movement for the world?
Oh, it is, and that's the angry statist hater. I'm sorry, statist hater is the same thing as the angry liberal hater or conservative hater. It's all the same, It's for me, it's just a general understanding of consent, and everybody's not going to agree, and that is not only okay, it should be applauded. If we all agree, that sounds pretty boring to me.
All right. Well, I hope that helps. Mike, we're going to take some other callers. Any last thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I want to give a shout out. You shared my page the other day, actually, on New Sons and Daughters of Liberty.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah. My buddy John is a big fan, too. I wanted to say what's up to him. And I wanted to call you a leatherneck.
Rah.
That's all I got. I really appreciate you having me on today, Adam.
All right. Thanks, brother. Much appreciated. All right. Let's go now. Daniel has some chats here. I would love to be an anti-American with you for a moment. Are we anti-American? I'm pretty sure we're not. But point taken. All right. Daniel, welcome to the show.
What's up, man?
Just another beautiful day in the life. What's on your mind today, brother?
Hold on, I have to stop you on your other feed. There you go. What's on my mind? Freaking hearing all the questions. Well, what are you gonna do about it? What are you doing? Or it doesn't seem like you're doing anything. Or what are you doing? And I'm not gonna give my examples, my personal examples of what I'm doing and what I do. Because I feel that I do a lot, but what I don't do enough, and I want to do more, and I want to share, and I want to fucking get these ideas out there without getting arrested.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You're having kind of outreach conversations. You're trying to talk to people about the message of freedom, correct?
Yeah.
And they're saying, okay, that's great. What are you doing about it? And they're challenging your proposition based on that.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I mean, I do hear that a lot. Well, what can you really do? What can be really done? It's already lost. It's already a lost cause. It is what it is. I hate that.
Okay, it's a really great question about outreach in general, because a lot of people do get questions like this. But let's first understand what's happening here, right? So, like, if you go talk to someone and you say, hey, freedom, hey, why don't you consider this and stop being a statist and adopt this worldview? And they say, well, what are you doing about it? This hasn't changed anything for you. All you're doing is talking to me. You're sitting at home, and it's just the problems continuing to get worse, and government is continuing to grow, and we're getting less free, and so on and so forth. What they're doing is ignoring your message. They're avoiding addressing it. So let's first be straight about that. Like, this is someone who's, it's like, hey, someone comes up to you and says 2 + 2 is 4, and they say, yeah, but your fly's undone. Like, no, sorry, 2 + 2 is still 4, and your statement is
Exactly.
really irrelevant here.
You always go off the point. You always go off topic. You never want to discuss it. So, why? It's like you're not. It's maddening. It makes me defeat. They're defeating me.
Sure. No. Because this is. Hold on. We're going to get into like the bigger relevance of this, because you're right that it is. It is more than just that conversation. But it's a lot immediately. Let's just realize what we're dealing with. We're dealing with someone who is being irrational. We're dealing with someone who is incapable on their own of looking at the world, at least as rationally as you are. And you want to share something with them, right? You want to share something that you have observed, something that you have felt, something that you believe in, that you care about and you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And
not to all people. I don't go forcing it I'm very picky with who I choose.
Of course. Okay, then that's very important. But there are sort of two ways that you can go about this then. You can say, oh, well, that's actually a logical fallacy. You're attacking the messenger instead of addressing the core of what I'm saying. I'd really appreciate it if you address the core of what I'm saying. Now, that's one way of going about it, and maybe not in those exact words, but that's stating if you can communicate that to someone who's throwing up any fallacious objection to something that is logic and rational, hey, if they're willing to be a part of the conversation and engage rationally at least, okay, they're going to get that, and they're going to you can move on to the next thing. However, we're talking about helping someone see the value in the message. And if that's the case, and they say, well, you could rephrase their question. Instead of them saying, well, what are you doing about it? You're just talking to me. You're still a pathetic, sheeple like everybody else. You still have a wage slave job. You're still paying your taxes. Forget it. Don't make me think anymore. I'm going to go back to watching TV. That's the absurd, perspective on that objection. Because the core objection that comes to someone's mind is not, well, this is wrong. It's, well, this has implications. This is a big idea. This guy's asking me to think and challenge my beliefs. How do I avoid this? At all costs. I've been so well trained by government to not think. And it's a matter. They're kind of avoiding it when they're saying it that way or when they're changing the subject. However, you could rephrase all of what I just said in that voice to, that's very interesting, Daniel. Could you tell me how this has improved your personal life and changed the way that you live? Could you share with me something that is more tangible about the implications of this? Can you help me see how this is not just going to be an idea that's going to frustrate me, but something that's going to improve my life? How would you respond to it then?
Yeah, well, no, I heard all of that a lot. I've been living here in California now for almost a year on vacation, and I just left New York. Wait,
hold on a second, Daniel. I got to cut you off right there. I'm a libertarian, and I've just been on vacation for the last year. Sign me up. Where can I be a libertarian? Where do I have to join an organization for this? I get your vacation. How does this work? Sorry. Great selling point, dude. You're already there. Am
I allowed to say these things over this? Will it affect me? We'll be like, oh, that idiot got caught on Adam Kokesh's show. It's just like I sell plant, and you why can't I sell things? Why can't I grow things? That is the most ludicrous thing ever. It's Schedule 1, Schedule 2, and this.
Okay, well, okay, no.
It's the most insane thing ever.
I'm going to stop you before you incriminate yourself. So, what would you say if someone rephrased that question as, can you please show me how the message has improved your life?
Would I have to hug? Would I have to hug them? I have to smile and give them a hug and be like, "You really want me to prove my?" No.
Let me ask you. Let me just ask you this question like this, point blank, Daniel. Why are you a libertarian? How has it made your life better?
I'm not a libertarian. I don't even know the actual definition of that. Could you tell me the definition of a libertarian?
Someone who believes in freedom and the non-aggression principle and the concept of self-ownership.
Okay, well, I guess I'm a libertarian then. So could you ask me the question one more time?
How has adopting that set of beliefs that you are trying to share with me, how has it made your life better?
Because I get to do what I want, when I want, whenever I want, except for these very peculiar set of illegal and rules that are enforced upon me, but not certain people. That doesn't make any sense. And so the law needs to be changed.
Hold on, you're involved in let's just put it like this. You're involved in an industry that has some legal challenges, correct? Just put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. And we know that the average American commits 3 felonies a day, in terms of our regular financial transactions, because everything has become criminalized, right?
Yeah.
And for the average statist, they go, if you believe that the law is good and righteous, if you have that false idea implanted in your brain, right? You're gonna when you break the law, which you're gonna do on a daily basis, you're gonna speed, you're gonna go 3 miles over the speed limit. You might go jaywalking. You might not report that that you traded something on your taxes, and you're gonna feel guilty about it, and you're gonna be ashamed of it, right? And there's an internal conflict. And so if maybe your answer is, understanding government for what it is allows me to break the law, as we all do, without the guilt and emotional torture.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's for damn sure.
All right. Where do I sign up? That sounds really good.
What do you mean? You're the one telling me. I love.
Well, if you're having these conversations and you're able to communicate all of that, I think that's the best way to address the objection that you raised. So does that answer your original question, though?
Yeah, that helps. That helps a lot.
All right. Thanks so much for the call, Daniel.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Nice talking to you, man.
All right. Let's see. We've got Jeremy Gassell, how do you know you are a true stoner? When your bong gets washed more than your dishes. Ba-dum-ching. All right, we'll take jokes from the Skype chat. Absolutely, Dave. Listening to the show while working here. Sorry for hammering your Skype. I got a joke. The U.S. government. Is that the joke, or is there another joke here? Let's see if we can get Dave on the line. We got 5 minutes left in the show. If you want to call in, Skype me, Adam Kokesh. I don't know if Dave looks like we don't know if he's online. From Robert Kane, who was on yesterday. Let's see, we got, hey, Dave is, calling. Let's get Dave back on. We talked to Dave yesterday, and he got cut off telling us the story about how he got swatted. Robert, welcome back.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. How you doing today?
Outstanding. Do you have some connection issues?
Hang on 1 second. How's that?
Oh, no, you're looking great, man. Sounds great.
Thanks. Is the volume loud enough?
It's great. So what was we got cut off though? What was the conclusion of all of this? You're getting swatted recently, and just to sum up for people that didn't catch yesterday's show, you were harassed by some local police because they suspected you of all sorts of things, but it was really because 2 women that you had invited to live with you for a while, and then ended that agreement, decided to seek their revenge through government. Is that a correct summary? Okay.
That is correct.
What's the status of the legal case now? And what are all the charges you're facing?
Right now, we're in not pre-trial, but still at arraignment. I go back on April 30th. What we're going to do is we're going to try to get some of the limitations that they put on, the restrictions they put on me with the GPS during my bond loosened up, so I can get around and make some money. But we're going to go to trial if we have to. But we have to have an evidentiary hearing on the Fourth Amendment issues that I have with the police coming to my house that night. They came here that night, and the first thing I asked them was, do you have a warrant? I didn't barricade myself in. I went right on the front porch. I had 8 rifles pointed at me. I thought they came up here to kill me, to tell you the truth. So I told them, do you got a warrant? They said, no. I said, come back when you get one. And then that whole story that I told yesterday happened, and they ended up outflanking me and slamming me and arresting me. So, I got to believe that when the police come to your house and under the Fourth Amendment, They have no right to talk to me. If I don't want to talk to them, they need to leave and come back with a warrant, not to start assaulting my house from the rear with AR-15s. You know, they're 30 feet away. I go to the back door, I look out, they're 30 feet away, 4 of them with AR-15s.
Well, let me ask you a question here, because if I understand this correctly, there were a number of things that went down in the course of the raid and your arrest that you could have done differently, that could have improved your situation. But when it came down to it, once these women had taken had gone and lied to the police, it really didn't matter. You were going to get screwed one way or another, right?
Yes.
Now,
I imagine that would have been the case. They found marijuana in my house. They said they charged me with cultivation of marijuana, operating a drug factory. They found some little baggies that somebody gave me for Christmas a couple of years ago as a gag gift, and they said, "Well, these are known to be used to distribute marijuana. They're about this big, this big."
Okay, so but more importantly, did these women oh man, I understand the temptation, and I understand men can be very easily manipulated by attractive women, but I think the real lesson to be learned here is not so much about dealing with the police or the court system, but about choosing your associations. Because in our relationships, we're all going to have interpersonal conflicts. We're all going to experience arguments and disagreements at times, and that's natural and healthy. In fact, if you go through life without any, you're probably living a pretty boring life. And you invited these two women into your home, and that's a pretty serious a vulnerability that you're setting yourself up for. They stole from you. They broke into your safe, and then they went and complained to the police. And a lot of libertarians, when they hear about ostracism or disassociation as a means of achieving a freer society, how do we get away from statism? Well, stop supporting statists, stop being friends with statists. Your story has an even more significant lesson to be learned from it, which is that you have to be really careful with statists because they are dangerous, violent people. They support dangerous, violent ideas. And a statist is someone who says, well, if I disagree with you, violence is okay. If I don't like what you're doing, it's okay for me to hire someone or elect a politician who's going to point guns at peaceful people to change your behavior. Which means that if you're dealing with a statist and you have a disagreement, you're saying, hey, I'm a libertarian. I believe in the non-aggression principle. If we have a disagreement, I'm not going to turn to government to resolve that unless I have, some immediate threat to life or limb and there's no other way to prevent that loss without bringing in the police, right? But I am not going to do that to you. It is a moral code. I am going to go out on a limb here and guess that these women were not libertarian. Is that correct?
No, they were. I think you would classify them as bar host skanks. I picked them up at the week before, and they came to my house and they stayed with me for the week. And I discovered the items missing, and I gave them an ultimatum: bring them back in 48 hours, and threw them out of here on Sunday night. I made some poor decisions, Adam. You are correct. I'm getting some feedback from my TV here. But yeah, I did make some poor decisions. I should have never let him in my house. I should have never let him in my life. At the time, I was recovering from back surgery, and I was under the influence of some strong pain-killing narcotics, to tell you the truth.
Well, I understand. I sympathize. I appreciate you sharing the story, and I hope people can appreciate the lesson from this. Thank you so much for calling, Robert. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Adam vs. the Man podcast, coming at you live 5 days a week from noon to 2 Pacific time at adamversustheman.com/live. If you want to get more involved with anything we have going on here, don't forget to send your love mail to Adam at adamversustheman.com. Why did the libertarian cross the road? Am I being detained? Cool, huh? So for those of you that are just joining us, at the Bundy Ranch in Nevada, north of Las Vegas. The Bureau of Land Management has been closing in, trying to kick the Bundys off their land. They've been stealing cattle. Not the Bundys, the BLM. Obviously, it's the government that's doing the stealing here. And all of this is allegedly for the purpose of protecting the desert tortoise. But what they're doing is, as we heard from Pete earlier, finally strictly enforcing their land usage laws and saying that, if you step out of your car, if it's on the dirt, you are stepping into protected BLM land and subject to arrest. And what we heard from Pete was that one of the sons in the Bundy family was actually detained for 3 days as a result. Pete, are you with us?
Ken, how much time do we have, by the way? Is it just a short segment?
As much as you need to tell the story. We're doing a special live broadcast. We've already finished our live show, and we've invited people to join us who want to hear from someone who is on the ground. We are broadcasting this live right now so that you can get your story out.
Okay, all right, excellent. Here's what happened. As soon as I concluded with you, we've got satellite trucks out here. I moved my vehicle, and as I was moving my vehicle, we have strike teams out here. Essentially, when they see these BLM guys come out of the hills with 15 to 20, they come out of the hills with 15 to 20 in a caravan. Included in that caravan, in every single caravan, especially recently, they've got this figured out. They have on a flatbed, they have a backhoe, and they have a dump truck. And now this is coming from a family that's been doing this since 1877. Okay, this is what they're saying. They're saying that they're corralling these cattle too quickly. Some of them are either too wild and won't comply. Okay, and then therefore it's easier to kill them, or they're actually pushing them too hard and they're dying out there. So what they're doing is they're burying these cattle out in the middle of nowhere land.
So now they're coming in and just not stealing cattle, just killing them, and not even butchering them or getting any value. They're just burying them in the desert.
Dude, you know what? Here's what we wanted to do. And I said because I was part of that small little strike team that, I got done with you. I'm charging up my stuff. And then I joined this little convoy of about 120 people. So 120 of us in vehicles went to stop the convoy from coming out of the hills. And what we were going to do, stop the convoy and call the sheriff's department and have them come and investigate to find out if these backhoes and these dump trucks are being used for the purposes of killing animals. Because there is no court order, as far as I'm aware of, that would offer that mandate to or give them the authority to bury cattle out in the middle of BLM territory.
So how did this unfold to the point where it was being described as a riot in the middle of the desert?
No, this is 100% factually correct. This is what happened. Several people tried to get in front of the convoy of 15 to 20 vehicles. Okay. I actually pointed my nose as I was going up the road. There was no room for two vehicles. I put my nose right at one of the SUVs, and I said, "Could you please stop? I need to speak with the supervisor." And then at that point, doors started flying open. That one SUV started to push me back. Actually, put the bumper of their grill, and I backed up and I parked and I totally complied. And I said, I just needed to speak with the supervisor. I asked to speak with the supervisor. By that time, the 120 civilians, essentially, that tried to stop that convoy, especially the dump truck and the backhoe, got in the way. I would say there were close to, let's say, 20 armed with tasers and ARs and sidearms, and they immediately began throwing women to the ground. And this is on camera. I have the video being uploaded right now. Women being thrown to the ground and several men being tased. And ultimately, the crowd became so incensed by what was happening. These are family members of theirs that were thrown to the ground. There was a 50-something-year-old woman who had cancer, was a member of the Bundy family. She was thrown to the ground by a man in BLM uniform. Go ahead.
Oh, it sounds like if you had 120, it was short enough of the critical mass of resistance that BLM decided to move in and deal with 120 people before they had to deal with 10,000 people. Do you think that strategically the way they carried this out was somehow let's nip this in the bud before it becomes a bigger protest?
No, I think they got caught off guard. They didn't think that we were serious about stopping that convoy because we believed, and based on what I was hearing from the family members, we believe that they may have been committing crimes by killing and by burying these cattle. And these are property. I mean, it's property of the Bundy family. Okay, but they're burying cattle, heads of cattle out there. We were going to contact the law enforcement. It was literally a law enforcement issue where the citizenry came forward, stopped the convoy, and we were going to contact the sheriff's department. Okay, they were caught off guard. They tried to push past us. They couldn't do it. By the time they became surrounded with their SUVs, they had the dogs out, the tasers out, the ARs out, and ultimately we outnumbered them, and in fact they retreated. Now, retreating, you know how they come back after a retreat. I wouldn't be surprised if they came back with Janet Reno freaking tanks and gas snoots, you know? I'm being funny about that. That's not a very funny thing to say, but
no. I understand it, and if you can step back, you can see that this is comical. But the immediate tragedy of this violent crackdown on an attempt at peaceful resistance is certainly no surprise to anyone who understands the law enforcement mentality. What do you think the response is going to be? Are people ready to rally behind this cause now? Or are we going to see a lot more people coming out from Las Vegas who are ready to stand with the Bundys?
Adam, it's my biggest plea and also my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that we don't respond. I mean, it didn't need to get to where it was, but guess what? Overall, you know, we were trying to stop them. We were they pushed past us. We wanted to enforce the law. We wanted to hold them and bring the sheriff's department there. They wouldn't allow that. They began tasing people. They found our crowd to be unruly, and yes, in fact, we were unruly. We were demanding a supervisor. We were demanding law enforcement. They were caught off guard. They retreated. I'm going to say that they're going to come back with a bigger force. We need to respond with an equal and opposite force to keep it peaceful. To keep it peaceful to where they will always retreat because they will always be outnumbered, and for safety reasons they need to disperse. We need to disperse them with large numbers of tens of thousands of people minimally. Okay,
all right,
so
well, we look forward to sharing your video, and we look forward to helping get that out and bring people out there. To anybody who is wondering, you know, where do they show up, what do they do, what do you have to say to someone who's considering coming out there?
You know, I actually ran into Lieutenant Colonel Roy Potter, okay, who was actually filming me right in the middle of the melee. He was actually videotaping the whole thing just as I was. He's been out here. I've run into a couple of people that have been running in our circles in the, you know, in the comment threads and alternative media. I would say, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I think we've all been waiting for that ultimate moment where we really can't afford to be taking time maybe away from work or from our families because, you know, maybe a small crowd or maybe the issue isn't big enough or you can't afford to get to Washington, D.C., whatever those reasons were that you couldn't get involved then. You need to push all the way past that. There's so much at stake at this point in time because I honestly believe that we can win with numbers. Now would be the time for you to respond and make a sacrifice. Please get here no matter where you're at. I got people coming from Michigan right now. We have militia members fully armed that are here, by the way. Okay?
Pete, do you mind giving us a little video tour, showing us the scene, a little outside of the inside of your car? What exactly does this area look like where all this is going down?
Okay, my car right now, by the way, I got, you know, all my gear. I got my backpack and stuff like that. But right now I'm actually under an underpass seeking shade because I haven't been asleep for quite some time now. And I'm going to take a little nap so that at 5 o'clock there's going to be an off-road vehicle caravan at 5 o'clock. I'm going to get ready for that. And that's, right now I'm underneath the 15 freeway at the exit 112 marker, exit 112. And that's the Riverside Road ramp, and that's where our main camp is located. All right. Now, if you look out into the landscape, it's literally, you can look out into hundreds of thousands of acres. It's beautiful, beautiful country. there's accommodations around here. A lot of people are staying in their cars. They're pitching tents. They're setting up camps. It's a huge family environment, and it's 100% peaceful. This is the way we're going to do it, is peacefully, and deal. It got out of control just a few minutes ago, and I'm going to say that was a full-blown riot. No doubt about it.
Sounds like it could be the funnest camping trip ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know it, man. You know it. Yeah, well, we're going to have a great time. It's good to watch the BLM put their tail between their legs and leave. I have to gloat a little bit about that. Now, watch out for the gunship coming over the hill, of course, but it was just a very brief moment in time that we were able to, to just relish in the success. So thanks for bringing this to your listeners and viewers once again. Ladies and gentlemen, get out here. Get out here. Now's the time to do it if you're in the Pacific Southwest, especially.
And like you said, there's so many people just a few miles away in Las Vegas. If you're listening from Las Vegas right now, or if you know someone who is in Las Vegas, who is near this area, that is just how many miles on the 15 north of Las Vegas are you?
I would say 80 maximum.
So by Vegas driving speeds, that's about a half hour away from downtown. So get out there. You can do this. Join the encampment. Pete, please stay in touch. If you have anything else to report, please let us know, and we'll get you right back on the air here.
This is going to get exciting, but we need the numbers so that we can keep it tame and win. Ultimately, get the feds to leave. So thanks a lot, Adam.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pete. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Santilli, PeteSantilli.com. He's on the Guerrilla Media Network, does his own show as well, reporting from the ground at the Bundy Ranch in Las Vegas. Hopefully we'll have some more live reports for you as this unfolds, but we've come to an important turning point where now the BLM is cracking down on protesters who are trying to stand with the Bundy family. We hope you'll stand with them as well.
Well, it's not like going to the beach fun or making out with your sister fun. It's more like
an appropriate welcoming committee, I believe.